Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We'll start the ceremony in just a moment. If you'd go ahead and take your seats. There's a good way to start things off. There's a great way to start things off, isn't it? Good morning, everyone. I'm Pete Crane, the Vice President of Education and Access here at the National World War II Museum. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to our 2021 commemoration of Veterans Day, jointly hosted by the National World War II Museum and the Mayor's Military Advisory Committee. We're honored to have all of you with us at today's program, which is generously sponsored by AARP Louisiana and the Navy Federal Credit Union. So thank you to our sponsors. Absolutely. To begin our commemoration ceremony, I'd like to turn the program over to the National World War II Museum's Chairman of the Board of Trustees, John Kerner.
Good morning. Today we gather in honor of Veterans Day to recognize the men and women throughout our country's history who have served and continue to serve our great nation. In keeping with our time-honored tradition, I'd like to especially recognize World War II veterans, home front workers, and Holocaust survivors in today's audience. Would you please stand and wave to be recognized? It's an honor to pay tribute to you and your service every day here at the museum, and I'd like to give a special welcome to Paul Hilliard, a member of the museum's Board of Trustees, to Ann Levy, Holocaust survivor and museum volunteer, and we're also honored to have Vanessa Brooks, daughter of Lawrence Brooks, America's oldest World War II veteran, present with us today. While Mr. Brooks could not be here with us in person, we're proud to know that he is participating virtually. So good to have all of y'all here. We'd also like to recognize all other veterans and active duty members, active duty military in attendance. Please stand or wave. Yeah. And while he's not here yet because of a late flight, we'd like to welcome and extend a special welcome to U.S. Army veteran and former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. He hopes to be here shortly. We appreciate having all of you all here to commemorate this special day with us. And as chairman of the board, I'd like to offer a special nod to current and past members of the Board of Trustees in attendance or viewing from home today, and a special welcome to Trustee Emeriti Jackie Clarkson, who is here with us today. Jackie, welcome. Today, we're also pleased to be joined by several special guests, so please join me in welcoming Linda Hope, daughter of legendary entertainer and humanitarian Bob Hope, as well as chair and CEO of the Bob and Dolores Hope Foundation. The Honorable Latoya Cantrell, Mayor of the City of New Orleans. Brigadier General Michael Mcwillians. Well, they're not here, but the Preservation Hall All-Stars, the band. Adolf Westerholz, Korean and area veteran who escorted Bob Hope in the USO shows during the time of the Vietnam conflict. And finally, Chaplain Tori Garrison, Keesler Air Force Base, U.S. Coast Guard. Get my next page here. With that, please rise as we begin our ceremony with the presentation of colors by the Marine Force Reserve and a performance of our national anthem by the museum's very own Victory Bells, followed by an invocation from Chaplain Tori Garrison. Color Sergeant, please present our national colors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Good morning. We stand here this day surrounded by giants, giants of valor and courage, those that deserve to be honored, that have many times been forgotten. Today, you are not forgotten. Our veterans that are here with us today, those that have gone on before us, and those that are currently protecting our country at home and abroad while we do this freely. With every piece of being that we have, we say thank you. Elmer Davis once wrote, "This will remain the land of the free only so long as it is the home of the brave." He also wrote that the first and great commandment is don't let them scare you. I stand here today telling you that our armed forces are not scared. I invite you to pray with me if you wish to do so. Our most heavenly Father, have your way with us today. Today we remember those who have served and have since been taken. Father, those that are here with us today, we give you thanks on this Veterans Day. More than that, Father, we thank you for every veteran standing here and listening to us this morning. From the Revolutionary War to the First Barbary War, they have answered this country's call. From Amelia Island to the Battle of New Orleans, they have given their all. The Falkland Islands battle took many of our men and a piece of our soul. The Civil War itself took too many to name, and those families took the toll. The Boxer Rebellion again showed how our men and women stood strong. Against tyranny they have fought, and fought they have far too long. To each veteran these battles and service they have persevered. But our families we give to you, Father, for they have shed the tear. May each veteran here today feel the love of their country and their community. Father, may you share a little blessing to each of them and their family. In the name of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, I pray this in your name. Amen and amen.
What you have just heard is a time-honored tradition at the National World War II Museum, the U.S. Freedom Pavilion resounding with the sound of our Liberty Bell replica. Veterans Day links Americans of the past and the present, as well as those who are to follow us, in memory of all those who have performed military service for our country. It began in 1918 as Armistice Day, when the guns of World War I fell silent after 4 long years of war, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of the year. The day was created as a means of remembering our fallen from that great war, as it was then known. And 3 years later, our remembrance of those who fell was deepened as the country established the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. In 1947, after an even greater and larger war, World War II, a U.S. veteran of that conflict led the charge to have Armistice Day renamed Veterans Day as a means of commemorating U.S. veterans from all wars. His name was Raymond Weeks from Birmingham, Alabama. Weeks led delegations to various national leaders, including General Dwight D. Eisenhower, for the idea of a National Veterans Day. He found a strong supporter in General Eisenhower, of course, our supreme commander of Allied forces in Europe during World War II. And in 1947, Raymond Weeks led the first national celebration in Alabama, a custom he would follow annually until his death in 1985. In 1982, President Ronald Reagan honored Weeks at the White House with the Presidential Citizenship Medal, recognizing him as the driving force for the national holiday. Indeed, Weeks was the father of Veterans Day. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I'd like to invite Major General David Mize, head of the Mayor's Military Advisory Committee, to come up and say a few words.
I don't know if you noted or not, but the Marines made it on stage here without tripping, as opposed to the Army's initial entry. I'm sorry, Pete, I just couldn't help myself. On behalf of the Mayor's Military Advisory Committee, I'd like to extend my welcome to all of you who are celebrating Veterans Day with us at this wonderful event. I also want to send out greetings to the large audience that I cannot see. Those of you who are streaming our event on the museum social media sites. It is exciting that we are now able to extend our reach and share our events with a lot more supporters around the region and even the country. I also want to give our sincerest thanks to the National World War II Museum for continuing to be the best possible partner for veterans and military support groups. It would be hard to imagine a better venue than this magnificent hall to commemorate American veterans. So once more, our great appreciation goes to Museum CEO Stephen Watson, Vice President Pete Crane, and the museum staff who make all of this magic happen. Another Veterans Day is here, and we have always owed a great debt of gratitude to our veterans as you think back about World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the Cold War. But it's never been more important or appropriate to give our current group of American veterans our love and support. Let's consider what this newly minted generation of veterans have done for us. They fought in Afghanistan, the longest war our country has ever engaged in. And in that forever war was fought in some of the most rugged and inhospitable terrain in the world, and where they had to operate in a culture that is so difficult for Westerners to understand. They fought in the worldwide war on terrorism, which has been going on in particular ferocity since the 9/11 attacks on the United States. This has pitted our veterans against some of the most fanatical and ruthless opponents in our history. The constant combat operations required over the last 30 years in Iraq and Afghanistan have led to veterans being deployed to combat zones for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and even sometimes 7 times during their tenure in the military. Only about 0.3% of the American population were ever serving on active duty at any given time during these past years. So our veterans were bearing this difficult burden of America's wars and fight against foreign terrorism almost alone. Other U.S. citizens have not been appreciably impacted by this difficult combat and extreme sacrifice that our veterans and their families have endured over the last 30 years. Our newest veterans have provided invaluable aid to their countrymen in other ways also, as they have helped in hurricane rescues and community recovery, assisted in fighting wildfires out west, and provided key support during the COVID crisis by sending military medical personnel to overstretched hospitals, overseeing the national distribution of vaccines, and staffing mass COVID vaccination sites. So for all the many reasons I've just mentioned, it is truly appropriate that our city joins communities around the country in celebrating and saying thanks to our great military veterans. In our all-volunteer force, they stepped up when they knew there would be a difficult challenge ahead of them, even when they did not have to. So I ask those in attendance to give our veterans a big round of well-deserved applause. And I also have to pay tribute to Jackie Clarkson, one of our MMAC plank owners, founding members, who probably has been to more Veterans Day ceremonies here in the city of New Orleans than anybody alive today. So Jackie, it's great to see you as always. Thank you. I have the honor of introducing our next distinguished speaker, the Mayor of New Orleans, Latoya Cantrell. Well, no, I got to give you a little more credit than that. Just a second, Madam Mayor. You deserve a little more than that. The mayor has several veterans in her family, and she understands the sacrifices that veterans have made and the pride they receive from their service. Since she has been mayor of New Orleans, she is proudly committed to all our Veterans Day or Armed Forces Day events. So we are really appreciative of all the time she takes to honor those with military experience. This sends a great signal to our veterans and the military in our region about what a great partner she and the city of New Orleans are. During the pandemic we have been experiencing, the mayor has had to take on almost military wartime responsibilities, where her decisions have near-term life or death consequences. She has admirably stepped up to that role and made the tough decisions needed to keep the COVID virus from devastating our community. We thank her for her leadership and her continuing support of our veterans. I turn the podium over to the Honorable Latoya Cantrell, Mayor of New Orleans.
All right. Good morning. Thank you all so much for having me here. It is an honor to be here on behalf of the city of New Orleans to extend a very meaningful Happy Veterans Day. You know, I want to say thank you so much The city of New Orleans is just really proud to have our Guard embedded on the ground right here in our city, that every step of the way, as I've served as mayor over now 3.5 years, I have leaned on our military, I tell you, in so many different capacities. I've had to sign 12 emergency declarations in 3.5 years, so that's an average of one every 3.5 months. And I tell you, if I didn't have the Guard by my side, I don't know where we would be, or clearly where I would be as a leader of this city. But what I do know is that we would be nowhere without those who made the ultimate sacrifice, and that we will never forget. But even those that I'm looking at who have demonstrated courage every step of the way. And we and I say thank you for that. And even as we've gone through this pandemic, a global pandemic, one of the things that you should understand, that the courage that you demonstrated, no matter how long ago, it continues to live on through leaders right now. And I would have to say, through me. It gave me the comfort, the confidence, and the reassurance that I needed to make those tough decisions to save lives. And the Guard was right there with me every step of the way. And whether the general mentioned it, whether it was setting up testing sites and being one of the first to set up sites in this state, or switching and pivoting to vaccination sites, again, right here in our city, again, saving lives. So I want to say thank you. Thank you so much. And I would also be remiss if I did not acknowledge former Councilwoman Jacqueline Brechtel Clarkson, yes ma'am, for making sure through over the decades that the military stayed in the city of New Orleans. You knew what you were doing then, and you're still doing everything possible for this city on today. So ma'am, thank you again for your service. Absolutely. So with that, I do want to acknowledge Colonel Terry Ebert, who serves as my Director of Public Safety and Homeland Security for the City of New Orleans. Colonel, thank you for your leadership. And I also just need to say to you that we have veterans embedded within the City of New Orleans, serving in many different capacities. And I'm thinking about even Admiral Callahan, who's a leader within our sewer and water utility right here in our city. So we are in great hands because of your service and dedication to this country. Love you and thank you so much.
It's now my privilege to introduce our military guest of honor and Veterans Day speaker, Brigadier General Michael Mcwillians. General Mcwillians is the Deputy Commander for Marine Forces Reserve and Marine Forces South, which is headquartered right here in New Orleans. We are also very happy to welcome his wife, Allison, who's in the audience with us today. Thank you for being here, Allison. General Mcwillians was an infantry officer early in his career and then shifted into the logistics field. He's held combat positions at nearly every command level possible. He has served in combat 5 times in Iraq and Afghanistan. He has been assigned to the Joint Staff at the Pentagon and to Headquarters Marine Corps in Washington, D.C. He is also a real scholar warrior, as during his career he has attended 6 major military schools and has earned 3 different master's degrees. So this is a military leader whose 27-year career to date has been very full and very successful. I would say that it's a pleasure to introduce General Mcwillians to you, but there is a little bit of pain in me in presenting him to you. His military biography states that he was commissioned a brand new second lieutenant in 1994. That was the year that I was initially promoted to general officer. So this young general is making this old general feel very long in the tooth and a real old veteran. But despite my age anxiety, I am truly pleased to turn the microphone over to a wonderful Marine for what I know will be some very interesting remarks. General Mcwillians.
Good morning. Mayor Cantrell, distinguished community members, citizens, and more importantly, veterans, welcome. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm humbled that you would have me here this morning at the World War II Museum to honor, to recognize the men and women who have answered the nation's call to service. George Washington stated the willingness with which our young people are likely to serve in any war, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional to how they perceive the veterans of earlier wars are treated and appreciated by their nation. The City of New Orleans, the World War II Museum, and all of us here today are doing our part to show veterans that we care, we appreciate, and we honor their service to our nation. We would be hard-pressed to find a better place to honor our veterans than this incredible museum, which gives a testament to the greatest generation. Today, we honor those who have served and have stood ready to sacrifice. They have defended our sea lanes against those who seek to interrupt commerce that powers the world. They've patrolled and protected the streets of cities halfway around the world. They have guarded our physical and digital borders against enemies who now operate in a world where boundaries only exist on maps. Our nation's soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardmen, and Space Force Guardians have volunteered to wear the uniform and shoulder the heavy burden of such a service. They are committed to the mission and often travel to far places during turbulent times at great risk because being present matters. We can all recall the heroes from earlier wars, such as Navy Petty Officer Doris Dory Miller aboard the USS West Virginia at Pearl Harbor, Air Force Airman First Class John Levito on his AC-47 gunship over Vietnam, or Marine Corps Corporal Herschel Woody Williams on the island of Iwo Jima, and veterans from more recent wars, Marine Corps Sergeant Dakota Meyer, Navy Lieutenant Michael Murphy, and Army Sergeant Leanne Hester. But there is more to a veteran than their willingness to lay one's life on the line. Our veterans are active members in our communities. In this community, veterans bring to our community, to our workplace, skills and discipline they've learned from their service days. Every day, there are veterans working to build a stronger community through their local churches, businesses, schools, service organizations such as the Boys and Girls Club, United Way, and Habitat for Humanity. More than 5.6 million veterans volunteer and contribute 630 million hours of community service annually. There's approximately 8.4 million veterans in the workforce. Of those, 1.7 million are from the Korean Vietnam era, still contributing to our workforce. And of those 8.4 million that are in the workforce, about 42% of those are in management positions. So veterans continue to lead the way after they exit service and take off their uniform. These examples that I just mentioned show veterans' service does not end with military service. Their continued outreach and public service by our veterans keeps bright and alive all that makes America great. President Kennedy once said, "A nation reveals itself not only by the men it produces, but by the men it honors, the men it remembers." Well, today, we equally honor servicemen and women, but the sentiment remains crystal clear. A key component to our nation's greatness lies in our ability to honor appreciate, cherish, through our actions and our memories, all those who have served to ensure our freedom. I believe we can sum up what it means to be a veteran in 3 words: service before self. Our veterans put the greater good before their individual needs. Veterans continually show their willingness to go into harm's way on behalf of our nation and their willingness to get involved in their communities on behalf of their neighbors. This is a legacy of all veterans, dating back to the earliest days of our republic. Whether you served 4 years or 24 years, I wish you all a meaningful Veterans Day. Thank you for your leadership, for your citizenship, for your service to our nation, and paving the way for all the men and women like me. God bless you, your families, your communities, and our United States of America. Thank you very much to all our veterans.
Thank you, General McWilliams. We're grateful for our continued partnership with the city on events like this one to honor our local veterans. At this time, I'd like to turn the program over to Stephen Watson, President and CEO of the National World War II Museum.
Good morning. Thank you, General McWilliams, Mayor Cantrell, General Mize. In Pete's defense, as a paratrooper, he's had a lot of experience at falling, so we're gonna say that was on purpose. So I got to stick up for the Army here a little bit. It's great to be back together in person, and Mayor Cantrell, thank you for keeping us safe and for allowing this event to happen in person today. We owe you a great deal of gratitude for your leadership over the last almost 2 years, so thank you. As you've heard today, this is an important day at the museum. You know, our mission here every day, but really especially on this day, is to honor the men and women who have served our great country and secured the peace and liberty that we enjoy today. In the slideshow that some of you may have seen before the ceremony began, there were images of veterans of many service eras and diverse backgrounds who put their lives on the line to protect our freedom and way of life. I want to thank all of you who participated in this and submitted a photo of your loved one. I think the response was overwhelming. Over 1,000 photographs of veterans were shared with us, and it was our privilege and honor to share that with our audiences on site this morning. I also want to talk a little bit about another very special group of people at the museum. Many of you in this audience are part of that number, and that is our Charter and Patriot Circle members. Many of them are also veterans or who have loved ones who served in World War II or later conflicts. We talk about our Charter members and Patriot Circle members around here as one of our greatest strengths. They come from all across the country, 150,000 strong. We believe the largest grassroots base of support of any museum in the country. I know, again, many of you in this audience today are in that number, and we thank you for your support. You may get weary from time to time at getting mail from me, but I promise you, this museum would not be the museum that it is without the support of our Charter members and Patriot Circle members. I wanted to highlight our Charter members and Patriot Circle members today for a special reason. Earlier this year, we sent out a small piece of wood and asked our members to mail it back to us along with a contribution to help advance the educational mission of the museum. 9,576 of our members from all 50 states, Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands responded, and we're honored today to unveil our flags of honor. You can see here to my right. Those 9,500 pieces of wood were handcrafted into flags by veterans and first responders. It took over almost 100 hours of their time to put this together. They're really beautiful. I hope you will get a chance to take an up-close look at the end of the ceremony. So my thanks to all of you who participated in this. Your support will continue to educate and inspire future generations, as these flags of honor will be permanently displayed here at the museum and also at another very important local institution, the Tulane Brain Center. The Tulane Brain Center aids in the healing, the recovery, and the preventative treatment of veterans with physical and psychological health concerns, such as traumatic brain injuries and post-traumatic stress. We're grateful to have Dr. Gregory Stewart and several of his team here with us today from the Tulane Brain Center. Thank you for your partnership, and most importantly, thank you for the very important work you do on behalf of our veterans every single day, sir. Thank you. You know, another thing that we always think about on this day is the urgency of our mission as we continue to lose more members of the World War II generation. You know, there were 16.1 million men and women that put on the uniform during World War II. Most estimates are that there are less than 300,000 survivors at this point. That might seem like a big number, but that's, by my math, less than 2%. So we have precious little time left to benefit from the wisdom of my former boss, Mr. Hilliard, who flew in the back seat of a plane just like this one right here in the Pacific. So our work is not only to preserve those stories, but to pass them on, to make sure that all generations understand that there is a price for freedom, and that we should all be inspired by our country's great legacy of service. We say that those stories are among the most treasured items in our collection. We talk about the importance of the more than 12,000 personal narratives in our collection. They're really the cornerstone of our educational programs, our exhibits, and especially in the post-COVID era, our digital content. But just as significant are the thousands of collections of correspondence. Correspondence captures the moments in time, the personal reflections that the writers probably never imagined would be shared. These letters offer a unique glimpse into the thoughts, the aspirations, often the fears, and the motivations of everyday Americans who answered their nation's call to duty in World War II. So today, we're honored to celebrate our nation's veterans by sharing a few of their own words. And we're excited to continue to highlight our rich collection of letters and correspondence with a really amazing new museum experience that you'll hear about in just a few minutes. But in the meantime, again, thank you all for joining us here in person. Thank you to all of you joining us virtually. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day here at the museum. And I will now turn it back to Colonel Crane.
Thank you for defending the Army's honor, Stephen. No, I served in the Army for almost 30 years, and my first deployment to a hostile fire zone was as part of the 82nd Airborne Division in 1990-1991. So I know what it's like, all these other veterans out here, to get mail from home. That one little piece of lifeline that somebody out there cares for you. That was always the best part of the day, and if you were really lucky, you got a care package. So I know what that feels like. So in keeping with the tradition today, I'm going to read a quick letter that I wrote to my then girlfriend, now wife, shortly before the ground offensive started. Teresa, I know that this isn't exactly what you had hoped for our third anniversary. Me neither. I guess that I can't honestly say that it's been a wonderful 3 years with you, since I've been missing for a lot of it. You've made me a very happy man for these last 3 years. You're the constant that keeps me sane and going in this whole mess. People ask me if I've ever worried that you're going to meet some guy up there in New York, considering of what I and my job put you through. But I can always answer that I'm not worried. You're the most loyal and loving person that I've ever met. Even though that we always seem to have a lot of miles between us physically, I feel closer to you than most couples that live together. They don't have what we've got. I want you to know that I don't take you or your love for granted, and that I'm thankful for every day for having you. You're everything that I'm looking for in a woman. You're smart, confident, sexy, caring, funny, beautiful, ambitious, and for some odd reason, you've fallen for me. I don't know what's going to happen here, but I'm sure it's going to get worse before it gets better. But I'm not worried. I've got you and a wonderful life to come home to, and that will be enough to get me there. We've had some tough times, and I put you through more than you deserve, but you've been rock solid in your love and support, and I love you for it. I love you, and I am in love with you. Thank you for these last 3 years and for all the ones that will come. I'll come home to you as soon as I can. Love always, Pete. 19 February 1988. At this point, I would like to call up our next reader, and I'm out of order here because I read my letter without looking at it. This would be one of those moments where you say, would you like to get away? Ladies and gentlemen, I will read the letters in order of appearance, and I'd like to call to the stage the Honorable Latoya Cantrell, Mayor of New Orleans.
Colonel, you're a sweet man. All right. Thank you for sharing that too. It's beautiful. Now, I have the honor and privilege of reading an excerpt from a letter written by 2nd Lieutenant Bertie Daigle of the Army Nurse Corps to her family in Opelousas, Louisiana. Daigle was one of the first nurses on the island of Saipan during World War II and a Bronze Star recipient. And it reads, I wish you could have been here last night to taste some of my super special gumbo. I have finally succeeded in getting all the essentials for it after 2 or 3 months of trying, but it was worth it, believe me. I think you have heard me mention a girl from Baton Rouge by the name of Dorothy Dozier. Well, she is a swell girl, and yesterday was her birthday, so I felt we had to celebrate it with a little touch of the homeland. And I think it was quite successful. Even the Yanks enjoyed it, though I imagine that during the still watch of the night, they sneaked to the icebox for a few gallons of water, and probably I dreamed it, but it seems I heard mumblings and mutterings about damn Frenchmen and their red pepper. Of course, they would never admit it, and I felt so sorry. Ha ha ha. Well, my dears, this is St. Joseph's Day, and I will say my prayers to him for you today. So until another tomorrow, I will end by sending you all of my very best love. And all you fellers and gals, be good, but not too good, as you would be breaking tradition and would also leave me too far behind. Again, my love, the brat, a big brat now, but still a brat. The end.
want me to go ahead? Okay. I don't have my guide dog with me today. He had to stay, so I'm in a way kind of by myself here, but I have a fellow service man helping me getting through this. I appreciate all of you being here and being in, and I'm very proud to be part of a group of people that fought in various seasons, in various places, especially in Vietnam. So to that effect, I like to read this letter that was given to me. The following excerpt is from a letter written by Protestant chaplain Carol Hamilton to his young son in Fort Worth, Texas. Hamilton served with the U.S. Army Air Force in the New Guinea and the Philippines. From what Mother wrote, I suppose you now have your tonsils out, that's what it is. And by the time this letter hears you, you ought to be feeling better. I thought of you yesterday as much as I could. I know you were brave and sensible about it, and I know you will take good care of yourself. I am hoping and praying that you will be through with colds. I have just a few minutes more and will tell you that your daddy is now to the Air Force, and I will respond for duty at Ogden, Utah, and will be assigned duty from there in one of 3 or 4 surrounding states. Or direct a combat unit either in Alaska, the Aleutians, or the South Pacific. With the new action in all of the Pacific turmoil, I may get shipped right on our out, but it is like that I won't be 4 months, but it won't be over there. Okay. If I don't come back, I've thought you come back live through you. I come back, it will be to help you, Rodney and sister, carry on to do your best in a world that is not cursed with war. Pray for me every day, as I know you can, and remember that I love all of you with all my heart. Your daddy.
Thank you, Wes. Thank you, sir. Honored to have you here. Thank you. I'll take you off.
Thank you, Colonel Wesselhoft. I don't know if it was evident to everyone, but Colonel Wesselhoft's story is amazing. Many people have heard that we incarcerated many of Japanese American citizens at the beginning of World War II. But Colonel Wesselhoft was from a German family that was also incarcerated. And they were traded back to Germany. And he was in Hamburg when Hamburg was bombed. But rather than be daunted by that, he came back and joined the U.S. Air Force and served in Korea and Vietnam. So thank you, Colonel Wesselhoft. At this time, I'd like to introduce again Brigadier General Mcwillians, who is going to read a letter by Army Sergeant Edward Carter.
It's my honor to read a letter from Sergeant Edward Carter, Los Angeles, California, to his wife Mildred. Carter served in the 12th Armored Division and was one of 7 African Americans who received the Medal of Honor in 1997, decades after their heroic actions in World War II. Dear lover, just a line or two letting you know that I'm still able to kick. Sweets, please overlook my not writing sooner. We've been fighting pretty steady. I have 9 bullet holes in all. Not so bad at that, is it? I hope that I'll get well and get back out to my outfit. I would sure like to get to Berlin. My outfit is the fightingest bunch of doughboys there is in it. Sweetheart, excuse my bad penmanship of mine. My nerves are not as steady as they should be. Mill, the only mail I've received from home, that's in the last 4 months, was dated 1 January. Answer this letter as soon as possible, because I might be on my way back up to the front in another month. Don't worry. Kiss the children for me. I'll try to make it home by Christmas. Keep your chin up. My every thought is of you only. By the way, today was the first time I've been able to get up and walk out and get some good old fresh air. So long, and good luck with your war work. Keep up the good work. We'll write again tomorrow. Always yours, your Eddie.
And now to introduce someone who really needs no introduction. It's my pleasure to turn it over to actor and humanitarian Gary Sinise. Please direct your attention to the screen.
The following excerpt is from a letter written by First Lieutenant Clayton Bernard Burse, a Jewish American from Brooklyn, New York, who served with the 409th Infantry Regiment in Europe during World War II. my darling wife. A few minutes ago, an officer rushed into the ward, came over to me, and rushed right out. He had handed me a small box, and the only words on it are Purple Heart. I also received a mimeographed sheet, General Orders number 140. Looking down the sheet, I saw awarded to the following for wounds received in action against the enemy. Under the list of names, I came upon Clayton B. Burse, 01311362, First Lieutenant, Headquarter Company, 2nd Bomb Wing, 409th Infantry, France, 28 November 1944. I opened the box, looked at the heart with tears in my eyes. There, I could see the blood I had given to make sure you and Dennis would never be subjected to the atrocities committed by the Germans. Now I have a right to say, I am a citizen of the United States, and my family is a family of free people. Free to come and go as they please, free to speak, to worship, to think. It is hard for me to write as my eyes are almost blinded by tears and my heart is full and heavy. We have earned our place in the United States, you, Dennis, and I. I want to look at the heart for a few days, then I'm sending it home. You may look at it and show it to your immediate kin, but do not wear it as a badge of this war or as a souvenir. This is to be one of my most treasured possessions. Should you show it, do not boast about it. The Purple Heart comes to soldiers who have suffered pain. So, my darling, don't cheapen it by a boast. Give it a place in your heart, in your soul, and in your mind. The only words I can say is that it is a beautiful award, one to be honored and revered. And now, my darling wife, I must concentrate on getting well for your sake, for the sake of our blessed son, and finally, for my sake. The future is bright. My mind is open, and I am filled with love and tender thoughts of my adorable wife and son. This Holocaust will come to an end. With it, we all pray a lasting peace. Now I must take leave of you so I may dream of my family. My fears are conquered. I am at peace for the first time in many months. God bless you, darlings. Clayton. One of the joys of my life has been performing for our nation's military through USO shows across the globe and giving back to service members through the Gary Sinise Foundation. I am proud to carry on the legacy of Bob Hope, whose hard work and dedication to boosting the morale of our troops is unmatched. Today, I am honored to introduce his daughter, Linda Hope, Chair and CEO of the Bob and Dolores Hope Foundation, and a dear friend of mine, to read a letter that was written to her father by Rudy Blanchard of Larchmont, New York, who served with a Searchlight Battalion during World War II.
Dear Bob, this is just a line from one of the GIs who saw you in Africa. At the time, I was with the Searchlight Battalion, sitting in a staging area outside of Bizerte, waiting to go to Sicily when it was invaded. We were told that you and Francis Langford were putting on a show for the boys, and as a more than welcome relief, I went gleefully down to see your show. You had been off the stage just a few minutes when that familiar dirge, an air raid siren, began to scream its nightly tune. Believe me, I have never witnessed nor taken part in a madder scramble than that to get the blazes out of there. Later on, I recall our lights were set up outside of Bizerte instead of going to Sicily, and we covered a good part of that invasion. Shortly after getting in position, we had a rather large-sized visit from our friend and his bombers. It's with a lot of pride that I can say our outfit stopped him from reaching his target that night. They were after the harbor that time. It seems that there were 3 or 4 aircraft carriers in the harbor. That was in July and August of '43. And if I remember correctly, you and the lovely Miss Langford spent a few minutes in a culvert that night of your show. Later on, we went to Foggia, Italy. After being there a while, we were suddenly changed into combat engineers and put up by the front lines. We used to listen to you on the radio every time we had a chance, and naturally enough, I have listened to your program a heck of a lot since I came home. I noticed that you're still in there pitching for the GI boys and those of us who were over there. Seeing your show took me completely away from all that stuff that was going on there. For that brief time, I was back in the good old USA. Of course, right after you were gone, I was violently reminded as to my whereabouts. I just want to say thanks for the memory. It is a darn nice one. And thanks for staying in there and giving a hunk of hope, and that's not a pun, to those fellows who are still on the Purple Heart list in the hospitals all over this country of ours. I haven't forgotten how close I came to being one of those boys. Sincerely, Rudy Blanchard. On July 11th, my father responded to Rudy. Dear Rudy, instead of thanking me for what I've been able to do entertaining the GIs, I want to say thanks for the memory of all that you boys have meant to the United States, our continued freedom and happiness. Let's hope that we can keep this a living memory that will not be forgotten. Sincerely, Bob Hope. My father's most cherished audience was the armed forces. He received many letters throughout his life from active duty service members, veterans, and their family members, as many as 83,000 a week in 1944. Letters of joy, laughter, sadness, and deep hurt. The contributions that he made through his worldwide travel and hundreds of performances to boost troop morale by bringing a piece of home and still reverberate decades later. The Bob and Dolores Hope Foundation honors and preserves the spirit of Bob Hope and his legacy as an entertainer, comedian, patriot, humanitarian, and supporter of U.S. military service members by showing compassion, empathy, by taking his talents to the center of a crisis. My father used his gifts to heal by showing compassion, empathy, and uplifting spirit and respect for community. We at the Bob and Dolores Hope Foundation are proud to continue to partner with the National World War II Museum to share not only my father's legacy, but also the personal stories of the men and women who used their gifts to help us overcome tremendous odds during World War II, just as my father did. And we are honored to have joined the museum in developing an innovative new production that will pay tribute to these stories and inspire audiences today to share their own gifts and talents for the greater good. I think right now I'm going to turn this back to Stephen to tell you more exciting news about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda, for sharing those words between your father and a veteran. And as you said, the sheer volume of correspondence is staggering. But thank you for joining us here today. It's a privilege to have you and so many of the leaders of the Bob and Dolores Hope Foundation with us today, including I want to recognize Tony Montalto, the president of the foundation, and Jack Peter and Ken Levy, both vice presidents who have been an integral part of the work with the museum over the last several years. So thank you all for being here. As Linda said, her father's dedication to bringing laughter and levity to our nation's troops was unmatched, so much so that in 1997, U.S. Congress declared him as the first honorary veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces. Quite an honor. Over the last 5 years, the Bob and Dolores Hope Foundation has partnered with the museum to bring awareness to Bob Hope's legacy as one of the most significant entertainers of the 20th century who served our country during some of his most difficult times across more than 5 decades. Beginning in World War II, Bob Hope and his troop put themselves in harm's way, journeying literally thousands of miles to faraway regions of the globe at a time when, I think we all know, travel was anything but glamorous. There were no private jets or fancy hotels. This was hard travel in dangerous situations. And there was really just one mission. And as you heard from Linda, it was to support and provide relief to our American forces. That was his mission, and boy, did he do it. The Foundation's generous support has had really amazing and far-reaching impacts across our museum. I cannot overstate that. The Foundation has supported our entertainment programs here at the museum by supporting our staff and providing free tickets to veterans and their families. They have helped us establish numerous educational programs and a traveling exhibit, So Ready for Laughter, that tells the story of Bob's contributions during World War II. One of the first calls I got last spring was from Tony, who wanted to help the museum as the COVID pandemic hit. And most recently, in the aftermath of Hurricane Ida, they supported our efforts to distribute over 2,000 meals to those impacted by the storm in the southern part of Lafourche Parish. They truly are a great partner in every way. Not only does our work with this foundation help preserve Bob Hope's legacy, but it is far-reaching into every part of our museum, and we are sincerely grateful for that. And today, we are very excited to announce a major new addition to the museum's campus. With the support of the Bob and Dolores Hope Foundation, 1 year from today, on Veterans Day 2022, the museum will launch Expressions of America, a first-of-its-kind nighttime outdoor sound and light experience that will immerse our audiences in the written words, songs, and personal reflections of everyday men and women who served our country in every way imaginable during World War II. This experience will leverage our collection of personal accounts and letters. You've heard excerpts from those this morning. And it will also leverage the unique architecture of our museum campus. Expressions of America will really be a one-of-a-kind experience unlike anything else in America. It will combine elements of a nighttime spectacular, an art installation, and a musical celebration that will place our audiences right in the center of historical moments alongside individuals just like them who helped change the world we live in today. This will be a ticketed nighttime experience. It will largely take place below our beautiful Bollinger Canopy of Peace, our architectural statement in the center of our campus. It will happen outside in the Battle Barksdale Parade Ground, right behind you, in front of me, and it will use the facades of our buildings to project dramatic 3D images. Our good friend and actor and veterans advocate, you just heard from him, Gary Sinise, will serve as the show's host, and the New Orleans legendary Preservation Hall All-Star Band will perform production of original music score, and you'll get a little bit of a preview of that following this ceremony. This has been a long journey with some great people involved, and I just want to take a moment to recognize the team that have been working alongside the museum and the Bob and Dolores Hope Foundation. Our partners, Mousetrap. They are the international leaders in immersive multimedia shows and attractions. They were also part of the team. If you've seen Beyond All Boundaries at the museum, they were part of the creative team under Phil Hedema that helped bring that to life 12 years ago. And also the Solomon Group, an entertainment, design, and production company based right here in New Orleans. Both of them have collaborated with the museum on various projects in the past, and we know with their skill and expertise, this is going to place Expressions of America at the forefront of multimedia experiences. I also want to give a shout out to a couple of our staff. Kim Geis, our Senior Curator and Director of Curatorial Affairs. I'm going off script here, Kim, but Kim has put her heart and soul into this over the last 4 years and has been working closely with historians at the Bob and Dolores Hope Foundation, our team here, to really craft just an amazing lineup of personal narratives that will, as I said, touch every part of the World War II experience. And also Sarah Sievert, who's in my office at the museum, who has been an integral part of this partnership for the last 4 years and has really had a major impact on Expressions of America. But most importantly, again, I want to thank Linda. I want to thank the Bob and Dolores Hope Foundation. This would not be possible without your support. We got together last night and we talked about this journey began really as an impromptu discussion over dinner almost 4 years ago in New York City. And it's led to, I believe, the development of one of the most innovative new experiences, and that will really share the inspiring legacy of Bob Hope and other members of the World War II generation with hundreds of thousands of visitors for many, many years to come. So now, please direct your attention to the screens. We've got a little, very special sneak peek of Expressions of America presented by the Bob and Dolores Hope Foundation. Thank you.
Wow, I can't wait. I'm sure you feel the same. We look forward to sharing Expressions of America experience with you when it debuts in the fall of 2022. And once again, thanks to the Bob and Dolores Hope Foundation for their generous investment in this new addition to our campus. You can learn more about this at expressionsofamerica.org. I'm going to go off script just a little bit and welcome a very special veteran, a West Point graduate, former Army captain, former director of the CIA, and former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, who's with us today. As we conclude today's ceremony, please stick around and enjoy musical selections that will be featured in Expressions of America and performed by the fabulous Preservation Hall All-Stars. Also, be sure not to miss the Victory Bells performance in BB's Stage Door Canteen at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Don't forget that veterans and their family members can get free tickets for this show through the Bob and Dolores Hope Tickets for Troops program. So veterans, make sure to see the ticketing desk right after this ceremony to get your free tickets, and swing by the Knit Your Bit table there in the back before you leave the Boeing Center to grab a complimentary scarf in appreciation for your service. Tonight, join us right here in the Freedom Pavilion, the Boeing Center, for an exclusive Meet the Author program with Martha Bolton and Linda Hope to discuss their book, Dear Bob Hope, Bob Hope's Wartime Correspondence with the GIs of World War II. And tomorrow, we'll conclude our Veterans Day commemoration with the Victory Ball Gala, our annual salute to service. We hope to see you there. Thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon at the National World War II Museum. Thank you all for coming.